Mike McMains,
Good morning. How are you doing, Stephanie?
Mr. Chicago. I was looking at our LinkedIn compared notes. We have an extraordinary set of common denominators.
I believe it. Yeah, we've both been very active in Chicago for a while now.
And leave it to Chicago to bring really your intelligence, experience, and creative energy. I am so thankful for your contributions to us, to the planet, to cross over from corporate life and use your vivid imagination and to bring people together. A one of a kind. So thanks on this Saturday morning, early spring. Hope
Yeah,
springs eternal.
thank you for the kind words. Anytime you reach out, I'm like, yes, I'm in.
Well, we've had that mutual set of drive and personalities, and we never get to socialize, so we can change that on a
But
moment's
our
notice.
paths do cross quite frequently.
We do. Well, that's why we have the city. So I have some questions because you have a lot of answers, but the only way you get to answers is to ask questions, right? And so thanks always for entertaining that idea. Your career, I was reminded that, leaping from real estate and sort of the fact-finding operational part of our city and those you served and uh, recognizing where visitorship comes in takes an enormous swing and an idea generation to get to that. You created tours with Mike, just put it out there what you're about. That's really helpful. How did those past experiences put you to the now? And just
Sure.
any insights you have for that are gainful to us.
Yeah, so my entire adult life has really centered on buildings. I went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I double majored in real estate and urban planning and finance investment and banking. After I graduated, I moved to Chicago, and for 17 years, I worked in real estate investment management. And so I was focused on the economics and the usability of all the buildings that we see around us. Now, after doing that for a few years in Chicago, I could look around and I knew we had amazing buildings, but I didn't understand what I was looking at. So I started going on a bunch of tours in 2004 with the Chicago Architecture Center, and then I was hooked. And so I went through their docent training program. And as a volunteer in my free time, I led architecture and history tours. And so, yeah, my day job was focusing on the economics usability and my free time was architecture and history. In the pandemic, like a lot of people, I'm like, what do I want to do with my life? And I decided to make my passion my profession. So I started my own company, Tours with Mike, my own one-person tour operation, and I've been doing that on a full-time basis since 2001.
So, gosh, that's a long time. A lot has happened in that time in our city, in the world, etc. I'm just going to sidetrack us for a moment. What was your original tour plan for Chicago Architecture Center? Were you old school, new school, somewhere in between?
Yeah, so when you go through the docent training program there, they have they pick out which tours you're going to be trained on. It's basically the ones that they have the greatest need for. They're good entry level tours. And then later on, after you've gone through that, you have the freedom to try to get certified in some of their other tours. Again, the Chicago Architecture Center is the largest architecture tour operator in the world. So it's an extraordinary organization. So you can try to get certified for some of their tours, or you can try to create your own. And so the one that the very first tour I created was definitely of the unconventional. It was my elevated architecture tour. So it was hopping on and off public elevated trains as you get unique
Yeah.
perspectives of the city. You learn how this iconic infrastructure was constructed, and you learn about uh, particularly the scoundrel responsible for its inception.
I love that verve. Way off. Having been a docent and serving on the architecture board of directors, blah, blah, blah. It is people like you who move these great streets and buildings forward. Otherwise, they're just structures, and we get to tell their stories, which brings me to memorable visitor experiences. Choose Chicago, and all of our friends go high and wide, and it's their business and mantra to elevate. There we go with that word, is to bring as many international, local, and guests onto these streets and give us that. How did you make that connection between our local and international visitors? And where do you see that um, your role contributing to the broader tourism, let's call it ecosystem?
Mhm. Sure. Let I love Chicago. I think Chicago is an extraordinary city, and I don't think it gets the credit and recognition that it deserves. So my whole motivation with every single tour that I give, at the start of every tour, I want people to feel more love for this city that I am so passionate about by the end of the tour when compared to the beginning of it. I want people to realize that Chicago is truly an extraordinary city and they want to spend more time here and they want to explore it more because that story often isn't told. So that is my passion. I want to share this so that Chicago finally gets the recognition it deserves.
And it's so evident watching you with our Roosevelt students and so many different our overlap again with Route 66 and the Centennial. There's so much to talk about. At another time I want to get into your head and say, the masterminding of all these tours. And so always with intentionality, I've seen you expressly say, this audience needs this. How do you balance? You're a business guy. How do you balance that efficiency of running a tour with these moments and also make it feel personal and meaningful? Can you give us some insight on that?
Yeah, so I guess I yeah, so I love the work that I do, but it's a business. And so I basically see my business strategy as having four quadrants, and it's either public, private, or in person and virtual. So I have four different quadrants for each of those, and I try to
Can
figure
you
out,
repeat that? Can you give me
yep,
that
yeah,
twice?
public and private. So public means like anyone can join. They can get their individual tickets. With private, they do a private booking for their own group. So I've got public and private, and then I've got in person. So that could be people that are with me, that are with me in person, whether it's walking, bus, L train, boat tour, whatever, or virtual ones that I do that are live streamed. And so I have these four quadrants, and I try to figure out what are the strengths of each of those areas, try to figure out what kind of experiences can I create that works well for that, and try to figure
Mhm.
out the distribution channels so that people can find that experience. So it's very much like a puzzle for me, where it's
Sure.
trial and error. I figure out what works, what doesn't, and try to figure out like the new content, new experiences that fit within each of those. I also try to keep in mind about what are people going to be talking about? What are people interested in? So I learned early on that well, like wintertime, people don't want to be outside much in winter in Chicago, but the Christmas season is amazing. So I mean, people are interested in Christmas, so I lean hard into Christmas because that's what people are focused on. So I do lots of in-person and virtual Christmas tours around that season. When I try to figure out like what are the milestones that people are going to be focused on. So as you mentioned, this year Chicago is or the country is celebrating the 100th birthday of Route 66. So I lean hard into my Route 66 Neighborhoods by Trolley tour. The country is celebrating its 250th birthday. So I have a presidential Chicago, Lincoln, Obama, and more walking tour. So I try to figure out like what and try to meet the customer with where they're at and try to create special programming based on that.
Gosh, if everybody was that dialed in, you could give entrepreneurial lessons, and I know you do just by example. And teaching in a business college of Roosevelt University, there's always that, this is wonderful, but how much did it cost? And how, what logistics, like how did it all line up? How did it get there? Because our city is so much about, well, as we know, our tagline, make no small plans, choose Chicago. It's all these, evocative sirens that get people here. We know once they're here, game on. They're buying in. Everybody falls in love. They still call Lake Michigan the ocean. We would have guests check into the hotel and say, "We'd love an ocean view." And I thought, well, what size of telescope do I need to
Yep.
get them to see the Atlantic? Um, so with this cross section of visitorship, this accessibility, and that means a lot of different kinds of things
Mhm.
now, and inclusivity, which you and I are very big on, not as a trend, but as a stable of who we serve across our city. We have so many styles of learning and people coming here. Can you share with us that social impact and the message that how do we reach everybody and yet make them feel a little bit special when they're on your tour?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So, yeah, when you're having accessibility and inclusivity, I think that accessibility is who is able to join you on that experience, and inclusivity is whose stories are you sharing. And so, those are two things that I'm very conscious about with all my experiences. With accessibility, with my in-person experiences, I try to adapt that. So if people have particular needs, then I try to make that experience possible. Something that also helps with my inclusivity or the accessibility is offering these public live stream virtual tours. This is
Hmm.
not everyone has the physical and or economic means to explore Chicago. And this is why I love offering these public live stream virtual experiences. So it gives people the opportunity to see why this city is so incredible. So with the in-person and the virtual, that's how I try to tackle accessibility. For inclusivity, one of the primary categories of tour experiences I offer are diversity experiences. So I have many tours that are focused on LGBTQ stories, Black history, systemic racism, uh, uh, Jewish heritage, women inventors and innovators. So I try to share these stories into interesting experiences that people aren't going to find anywhere else. So that's how I address both accessibility and
Sure.
inclusivity.
And always with such an examination, I'd say, of not only intelligence, but you never make people feel like, what do you mean you don't know how to pronounce that? Or which founder? We we have a lot of stories in this town.
We sure
And I'm
do.
laughing because you're the only person I know that could come up with let's say, a certain rodent focused tour. Would you like to just impromptu just share like how'd you come out? And And how do you get away with talking about something no one wants to talk about?
Yeah, so something I learned is that if there are a lot of tour operators in Chicago, and if you are a one-person tour company, you have to do something that stands out. You have to create experiences that no one else is paying attention to, and
Yes.
no one else is sharing. Uh, Several years ago, I got an email through my website from a guy saying, "Hey, I'm my cousin, my 12-year-old cousin's lately been really into rats. Can you do a tour that involves rats?" And at that point, I didn't really know anything about rats, but I just loved how this family was super supportive of their 12-year-old who was super into rats at that time. And so that's when I said, absolutely, yes, I can do this. And so I started doing my homework and I learned that rats are fascinating. And then I initially planned it just as sort of like a one-off tour for them, but yeah, my tour experience is called Underground Chicago Plus Rats, and it explores Chicago's hidden underside with its lower level streets, pedestrian tunnels, subway stations, and I talk how rats have been fascinatingly interconnected to that story since Chicago's inception. So it's a it's an
Sure.
amazing tour experience. It doesn't it on it doesn't it's not something I ever would have come up with if it weren't for this super supportive family. But I'm so thankful that
Sure.
did because it's a really special tour experience and it's definitely one of my most popular ones.
And, to take on something that is bold again, but that you listen to your audience, and your audience is just not like people like me who love Chicago and know architecture a little bit.
Hmm.
It's really just, how did Chicago evolve? What was the deal with that fire? What's going on in City Hall? You're have to, caption that so many different kinds. And I'm wondering about the seasonality of that programming and from rats to riches. Maybe that's another topic. That events and the tours that you give, that programming, it plays a large role in how we sell Chicago. And
Hmm.
I'm curious about some strategies that you get. Is it one and done? Tours with Mike, love, I saw so many of your reviews. They're just eye-popping and podcasts you've done. And what keeps people, it's nice to say yes once, but what keeps us coming back to you expressly?
Mhm. I think that people see my passion for Chicago. It comes across in my experiences. And I think that they get a sense that when they go on one of my tours, that's not Chicago's entire story. That there is so much to tell and there's so much to discover. I learn new amazing things about Chicago every single week of my life. And I've been leading tours for more than 2 decades now. And it's my responsibility to know these things, but I still am constantly learning. And I think that's why people keep on coming back for experiences from me because they know that Chicago has so much to offer, and I want to share those stories.
I mean, in a nutshell, and I love your ability to take a large concept and because that's tour guide 101. It's here's Chicago, but you just gave it to me in, 2 to 3 sentences. A plus on delivery. Um, I have students. I also have a lot of people in my life who are just sort of curious, the underbelly of entrepreneurialism. You literally put your name and your shingle out there
Hmm.
as real estate. You could have called your company, Chicago's Best, etc.
Yep.
Bold and yes, in it, tours with Mike. Before I ask you about student life, were there any other thought? Is there any other thought to, 4-star tours or anything? You just went right for it. How did you get
Hmm.
to the title of your company?
Yeah, so when I first created this company and brand, a common criticism I heard from people is that why are you calling it Tours with Mike? It's really limiting you. You're not going to be able to like grow and get big. And I said I don't want to be big. I want to be happy. I
Mm.
don't want to hire any employees. I don't want to have to train them. I don't want to have to manage them. I want to focus on what I'm passionate about. I want to create tours and I want to share tours. And so with branding my company as Tours with Mike, you know who you're getting as your guide. It is not this nameless entity. It's not someone that's
Mm.
just doing a tour for now, and who knows what they're
Right.
going to do later on. They're if they're reaching out to me, they know they're getting a professional guide who's passionate about Chicago, who tries to create special experiences, and that's how I try to differentiate myself. That you know who you're getting, as opposed to a nameless void type thing. So that was very
Right.
intentional with my branding.
Well, I can't imagine otherwise. It's not like you took on a major advertising firm to come up with this name, but I knew that it was with grand purpose. And it's delivered because we all know immediately what and who that is. And that's your brand. The stuff that comes follows, we trust. And your believers and followers are obviously attuned. Students in tourism. Oh my gosh, what a
Hmm.
phenomenal profession, as we know, and so many different entry points. What skills or mindsets are sort of matter most right now? I mean, it's a tall list, but can you chunk out a few gotta haves if you
Yep.
ever did expand? Who is the right kind of representative of tourism, and what do they need to be
Mhm.
like these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So with one thing, I would say that if you're going to be in tourism, make sure that you are passionate about what you are selling.
Mm,
That I have been asked to do on the road tours, going to a bunch of other cities, and I say no. I am passionate about Chicago. I
mhm.
am not going to be able to replicate my enthusiasm that I have for the city for anywhere else.
Right.
And so this is my shtick. This is my focus. I'm passionate about the city, and it comes across in the experiences that I share. So finding your passion, I think, is an important thing. Another, I think that's important is just really putting yourself in the shoes of who you're interacting with.
Mhm.
That you really try to anticipate what are they interested in? What are they trying to see? What are their concerns? What are their values? And to really not just give a boilerplate recommendation, really just try to create this experience that makes them feel heard and makes them
Yeah.
feel special. And from there, I also recommend having adaptability because a lot of things change all the time. I gave a tour yesterday, and it was with a private group of 22 people, and it was on a bus, and it was not part of the plan, but a road was closed, and they're forced a detour, and it was a
Yeah.
material detour, but that's life. You have to have that
Mm.
flexibility and that adaptability, and you have to be prepared for that unexpected. So I'd say find your passion, really put yourselves in the shoes of who you're working with, and focus on adaptability and flexibility.
Sure. Gosh, what a bumper sticker. That's it. Mike, I learned from you our interactions are pristine and valuable to me personally and professionally, but frankly, mostly as a Chicagoan, because I can't be with you on my walk every day. But I know if you're out there walking that, it feels really good. And I know that you're just, you have so many extraordinary raving fans, and I'm happy to be one of them. So let's promise to see each other soon. Springtime, summertime, never early enough. I am thankful for you always. Tours with Mike McMains. You're
Well,
the best.
Stephanie, thank you for being such an amazing cheerleader and supporter and friend. I mean, anytime you have ever reached out to me and say, "What do you think about this?" I'm like, I always pay attention to what you're saying because what you're saying is special, thoughtful, and yes,
Well,
you're amazing at everything you do.
well, here we go. We're going to make no small plans. Ooh, wish we had said that. Thanks again. Have a fantastic Chicago kind of day.
Yeah, thank you so much for this conversation,
Sure.
and I hope that this is helpful for people watching this.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.